Hello, welcome back to the Cricket Nerds. Today we have to make a podcast for you. So even that just deserves a like and a subscribe right there, doesn't it? But we had to make this podcast because we had a close game in this World Cup. For the first time, South Africa beat Pakistan by just one wicket, and it was getting quite tense at the end. We've just finished watching the game. James, your emotions right now, are they speaking to you?
Oh, my cold, dead heart has finally felt something this World Cup. It was a really, really good game. It's finally a game has gone down to the wire, and I didn't. Like, obviously, I knew that we hadn't had any close games this World Cup, but I didn't realize it until I felt the nerves that I was feeling for two teams that I don't necessarily support that much.
Yeah.
I like both teams, but I don't, I'm not from Pakistan or South Africa. And the fact that I was feeling as nervous as I was when I was watching it showed how much we've missed this kind of game. And I'm so glad it's happened. It was a proper nail biter. I thought that Pakistan got way under par in terms of like the amount of runs they got, and then just switched it on in the bowling innings and made South Africa really fight for it, and it was beautiful. What were your raw emotions?
Oh, it was weird because I felt exactly the same really, but after that first innings, I was thinking that is nowhere near enough because in my head I've got the South African batting lineup of this tournament who have just been ridiculously strong the whole way through. Um, and then Quinton de Kock came out and started smacking it all over the place. And they were going at 10 and over inside the first 3 overs. And I was like, this is going to be an absolute steamrolling. South Africa are going to own this one. And then I was like, but South Africa lost to the Netherlands chasing. This South African side doesn't like to chase. So even though Pakistan have only scored 270 runs, they're probably par based on how South Africa chase. And Pakistan's bowling attack compared with the Netherlands is a lot better. Um, and South Africa almost choked. So my heart was kind of like, oh, I want South Africa to do well. Now that England aren't winning,
Yeah.
maybe South Africa can win. But yeah, it was really tense. What were your highlights of the game, bar the end, obviously?
Um, I think Aidan Markram's innings was a real highlight for me. I also liked the partnership between Saad Shakil and Shadab Khan. I thought that was a really important one. Shadab Khan kind of gave his wicket away and then unfortunately got injured right at the start of the bowling innings, which meant that they had a concussion sub. And then Osama Mir came in and he actually bowled really well. So, that was a really interesting kind of dynamic to the game. So I'd say that was another highlight. But I've got to say, I think my favorite moment in the game was when Harris Ralph got the outstanding caught and bowled off
Oh yeah,
Lungi and Geedy. It was an unreal catch, and it suddenly meant that the game was wide open. Like it was such a tense moment. I just watched it and my jaw dropped. I just couldn't believe it, and that
yeah,
was I think that was my favorite moment of the game.
yeah. It was just the twists and turns of the South African batting innings, and then that catch, like you said, it kind of just brought it alive to the point where that sort of thing makes you believe as a team that you can win because you can do anything. So yeah, I thought that was going to be a close one. Are we seeing Babar Azam coming back to form a little bit? He looked okay for his 50. He kind of settled the ship a bit, played the captain's knock that Pakistan have been looking to him for play because I know he's made a 50 already this tournament, but for him to perform against the good bowling lineups, that's what Pakistan need from him because he comes under a lot of fire in that aspect.
Yeah, I think he did look good. He looked completely assured the whole way. He tried to play a little cute scoop off Shamsi, and Shamsi was like, "Oh no, it's just missed leg stump," and De Kock was like, "How's that?"
Yeah,
And
it's a
it did
catch.
have the slightest brush on his glove, and that was a huge turning point in the game, I thought, because like you
Yeah,
say, Babar Azam, he did look good, and when he looks good, he looks effortless, and that's the sign of real class with him, is that
yeah,
when it's going for him, it doesn't look like it. It makes you think that cricket's easy, and then you go and play it, and you become miserable again because it really
yeah.
isn't. But it was that was a very very solid knock from him. Um, One point I want to raise is how do you think he did in the captaincy? Because obviously there were 3 overs of spin at the end of the innings that they had to bowl. And he also opened with spin. He had Iftikhar Ahmed, who ended up bowling, I think it was 5 wides off the first ball, which, if you think about it, that could have been the difference in the game. But what did you think about his sort of bowling changes, the spells that he brought people on for, all that
I
sort of
mean,
thing?
it's when you had Shadab Khan go off as a concussion sub, it it kind of makes you think, well, it kind of throws off your plans, right? Because Shadab Khan's such a major part of that Pakistan lineup in terms of providing that balance. And I know that he wasn't able um to bowl, but he's also so important in the field as well, in terms of restricting a score like that. And I think with Iftikhar Ahmed opening the bowling, it's like, well, we need to be honest, it's hard for Babar Azam to be confident in his spinners because they haven't been bowling that well all tournament. So it's kind of like, let's try and hide a few overs at the start with Iftikhar Ahmed, which I thought was an okay idea. However, with someone like Quinton de Kock opening the batting, he's just going to punish that, isn't he? So there's that aspect. I also thought that the way he was also bringing on his quicker bowlers were kind of the right choice in that if we were they weren't going to win the game by economy rate, were they? And I think Pakistan got a bit of flack earlier in the tournament. I think I can't remember what game they lost, but they lost a game. It might have been Afghanistan actually, where they were bowling their spinners rather than bringing on their pacers to get the wickets. And so Babrazam's kind of done the opposite there. And in a way, it made a close game. We saw how well Shaheen Sharafudi bowled, Harish Rauf bowled, Wazim as well. That is their key strength, isn't it? Their pace bowling. So it's easy to fault it post game, but at the same time, I think in the moment he made all right decisions. It's
I'm
just
completely with you.
hindsight's a great thing. Yeah.
I think that the decisions he made were the right ones, and that's the reason it got as close as it did with a subpar
Mm.
total. Um,
Yeah.
I think he brought back people for the right spells at the right times, and yeah, I mean it was. I think the execution potentially of Iftikhar Ahmed and Mohammad Nawaz wasn't there, and that
Yeah.
killed Pakistan really.
Yeah.
If the execution was there, I think it was the right call because Iftikhar Ahmed takes the ball away from Quinton de Kock, you might get the big fish early. Turned out
Yeah.
that Quinton de Kock was just middling everything so well that he managed to pick out sort of deep square leg with a really, really flat shot. He was absolutely pinging it. But
Yeah.
yeah, overall, who was your player of the match?
Oh, that is a hard question because there were so many good performances all round. Um, I can't just give it to Harris Ralph for that catch. If I could, maybe he gets the champagne moment. I'm I'm either giving it to, and this is obviously me sitting on the fence here, isn't it? I'm either giving it to Aidan Markram for his brilliant innings, which if he didn't play the innings, if he was out for 30, South Africa lose, or Shamsi, because I thought Shamsi came into the team, bowled incredibly well, and held his nerve at the end.
Mm.
So for me, that's for that reason, I'd give it Shamsi, but also Markram's runs are really vital. What
Yeah,
about you? Are you between those two as well?
I'm actually between. I think Shamsi was really good, and he's obviously not a good batter. So the
No.
fact that he managed to hold his nerve as well as he did with Keshav Maharaj at the end was really impressive. But I actually would give my man of the match to Marco Janssen
Okay, yeah,
um,
he did bowl well.
because
Mm.
he bowled really well. Like he took 2 big wickets of Abdullah Shafiq and Imam Haq at the start, which set the tone for the Pakistan innings. He also got Mohamed Nawaz towards the end, who was kind of teeing off a little bit. And then he was part of that. It was a weird scorecard for South Africa, but he was one of the people that got 20 quickly. And it did mean that South Africa were applying the pressure back. And I think overall he probably had the biggest sway on the game. Aiden Markram, obviously, his 91 meant that South Africa could win. But for me, I think I would actually give man of the match to Aiden Markram, just because I think he changed the game a little bit more. That's what I said, right? Yeah. That's what I said. No. I think Marco Jansen. Check it back. I'm sure.
Well, but I think Marco Jansen is one of the main reasons that South Africa are doing so well in this tournament. I mean, India are obviously doing well because from 1 to 11, they're such a strong team. But they've got that all-rounder in Ravi Jadeja who can come in at 6 and 7 or even higher, and he bats really well. And he bowls incredibly well. On top of that, someone like Shadab Khan for Pakistan, I know he was injured, but he was a specialist number 7 in this game. I don't mind seeing that from Shadab Khan, but they need that balance. And then when you look at South Africa, Marco Jansen, there was a lot of question marks over him coming into the tournament, but he has proven himself with the bat, and he's been awesome with the ball. Like, he's been really important to that South African side in getting that balance and pushing it at the end. So yeah, I agree that could be the case.
I think the real question is how can, if Marco Jansen is this good, can they get Duan Jansen, his twin brother, who is basically the exact same thing as him? Can they get him to be as good? Because the only thing that's better than one Marco Jansen is 2 Marco Jansens.
Do you think Duan Jansen is just in disguise at this World Cup? It's just
maybe. I reckon they just take it in turns. I think Duan Jansen is a really good batter and Marco Jansen is a really good bowler. They switch off in the innings break.
There have been weird things that have disqualified South Africa from World Cups and things. Well, not disqualified, but kept them out. But yeah, I thought in a way, I was thinking South Africa need this game. And this is kind of my last thoughts on this game. South Africa needed this game to happen because in so many World Cups, they've choked and lost, especially in last wicket partnerships. And it's caused them their World Cup. And I was thinking, well, is this really the same pressure as like a semi-final or a World Cup final? But when you look at their fixtures to come, they've got New Zealand, who have been top 3 team, India, who have been the best team, and then Afghanistan as well, who they're beating England and Pakistan, who haven't been great this tournament, but they still did it. But if you look at those 3 games, only one of those is really a cert. So if South Africa lost this game, then that would take them to 8, keep them on 8 points. Then they'd only play 2 games more. If they only won 1 game more, they'd only be on 10 points and probably wouldn't qualify. So it was so important that they won this game. So that, and if South Africa had lost, then we'd be talking about the missing game, which is when they lost to Pakistan. Because they can't really afford it because they lost to the Netherlands, and that's the thing. Right? Yeah, good game. Really, good
it was
game.
A very good game, almost as good as our members, the certified cricket nerds. So just as always, a big shout out to Parv and to Look Who's Watching. If you want to become a member, do just hit the join button next to the subscribe button, or the link is in the description if you can't find that. Don't forget to like and subscribe. We really do appreciate all the support. You can follow our social medias. We are particularly active on Twitter, so that's all in the link tree down in the description. Oh, sorry, yeah, it's X, not Twitter. The same thing. And yeah, thank you very much for watching. We'll see you next time. Goodbye.